Dining etiquette. Even if your manners are impeccable, a little familiarity with social protocol can help you create an enduring impression during your interactions with associates and clients in both formal and informal situations. Sharing a table over lunch or dinner with professional acquaintances who you have seldom interacted with is a rather tricky situation. While you're trying to familiarize yourself with your guests and trying to concentrate on securing business alliances, you should also pay attention to how etiquette and behavioral patterns play a quintessential role in social standing and effective business communication. The most important thing to remember is that you're not there for the food, but for the business. These are some rules that every professional needs to adhere to in a formal social interaction. The host is always in charge. If you are hosting a luncheon or dinner on behalf of your organization, it would entail choosing an appropriate restaurant and making reservations in advance. The last thing you want to be told is, there is no table available for you and your guests. Always try to ensure that you know what the basic palate of your guests is. Choosing a Japanese sushi bar for a group of guests who prefer continental or vice versa would be a rather silly thing to do. Always arrive on time and definitely call ahead and inform the restaurant staff if you know you will be delayed. Never keep your clients waiting for you to arrive on a luncheon or formal dinner. Wait for 15 minutes beyond the scheduled time for congregating at the scheduled restaurant before calling to check on the arrival status of your guests. Once the guests arrive, you need to take charge of the logistics of the meal. This means directing your guests to their seats or recommending items on the menu. Always familiarize yourself with the menu in advance. Ensure that you know if your guests are allergic to any particular ingredient, as food allergies can be particularly serious. Fine dining restaurants normally do this far in advance by sending a form that should be forwarded to one's guests, so that this can be clarified before the buffet or the a la carte. Always consider dietary restrictions when selecting a restaurant. Most people do not impose their dietary choices on others. Nevertheless, you can often judge what to order by the type of restaurant the host chooses. For example, if your host is a vegetarian but chooses to meet at a steakhouse, it clearly indicates that you are free to order steak. Keep the culinary options balanced. If your guest orders an appetizer or dessert, you should follow suit. You should ensure that your guest does not feel uncomfortable if his dietary needs or tastes demand an independent course. You might be free of this obligation and guilt when there are a large number of guests. This rule is not applicable to a buffet. While directing your guests to their respective chairs, never offer to pull out their chair or help them physically, regardless of their gender, unless the client is physically challenged. You are not part of the restaurant staff and should always play the role of a host. While it is quite acceptable to hold open a door for your guests, the former often signifies subordination. Once seated, do not place any objects like bags, purses, sunglasses, files, cell phones, or briefcases on the table. Once everybody in the group is seated, gently unfold your cloth napkin and place it on your lap. It should be folded in half with the fold towards your waist. Keep the cutlery in the same order as they appear on the table. Do not rearrange them to accommodate yourself, even if you are left-handed. Wait for all your guests and colleagues to arrive before beginning to order the meal. The correct placement of crockery and cutlery on the table is depicted by this diagram. There is an easy trick for remembering where the things go. All you need to remember is that left has 4 letters and right has 5. Food is placed to the left of the dinner plate. The words food and left each have 4 letters. If the table is set properly, your bread or any other food dish will be placed to the left of your dinner plate. Similarly, drinks are placed to the right of the dinner plate, and the words glass and right contain 5 letters. Any glass or drink will be placed to the right of the dinner plate. Left and right also work for your cutlery. Your fork, which has 4 letters, goes to the left. Your knife and spoon, which have 5 letters, are both placed to the right of the dinner plate. Think BMW to remember where plates and glasses go. Another trick for remembering proper placement of plates and glasses is to remember the mnemonic BMW, which stands for bread, meal, and water. The bread and butter plate is on the left, the meal is in the middle, and your glass of water is on the right. The Diner's Guide to Crockery and Cutlery. Every luncheon and dinner course will have its own set of crockery and cutlery depending on the chosen menu. Some of them would have already been placed in front of you, and the rest will arrive with the full complement of dishes as they are laid out on the table. The general rule is to start with cutlery on the outside and work your way in as the meal progresses. This image indicates how a formal dinner setting should be. The largest fork is generally the entree fork. The salad fork is smaller. The largest spoon is usually the soup spoon. If you are having a fish course, you may see the fish knife and fork as part of your dinner setting. Never hold cutlery in a fist. When you are not using them, place the cutlery on your plate and not on the table. Do not use both hands simultaneously to hold a single piece of cutlery or your cup. This signifies confusion and a lack of professional etiquette. Ordering the meals. When in doubt, follow the lead of the host. Chances are he is used to the restaurant and knows what to order. Order food that you are comfortable with, familiar with the taste of, and which is easy to manipulate on the plate. Avoid finger food that is difficult to break or cut with a knife, spoon, or fork. Intricate preparations that you are not used to are instrumental in creating a substantial mess. Imagine trying to stuff noodles in your mouth with chopsticks without practice. Your dining coat is sure to bear the brunt of your culinary adventures, and it certainly might provide humor, but at your cost. Don't order alcohol at a business meal. However, wine may be part of the menu. Culture and eating habits. In Europe, you would generally secure the food with your left hand and use the right hand to divide it into smaller portions for consumption. In America, cut the food with the right hand and hold it with the left, then switch hands to eat with the right hand. While eating, wait for everyone to receive their food before commencing your meal. Always break bread with your hands. You should never use your knife to cut your rolls at dinner. Break your roll in half, tearing off one piece at a time, and butter each piece individually. Gently stir your soup to cool it instead of blowing on it. Spoon your soup away from you, not towards you. Cut your salad or food into bite-sized pieces. Large mouthfuls can be cumbersome to chew on and look unsightly. Never speak with a mouthful of food. If something undesirable is in your mouth, discreetly remove it with your fork. Try to pace yourself to finish at the same time as everyone else. If you leave the table, excuse yourself and place your napkin on your seat. The rest and finished positions. Place your knife and fork in the rest position, which is knife on top of plate, fork across middle of plate, to let the waiter know you intend to continue eating after a pause, and use the finished position with the fork below your knife diagonally across the plate to indicate that you have finished eating. Do not use the napkin as a tissue. Use your napkin frequently, but only for blotting the sides of your mouth. Do not use it as a tissue. If you need to blow your nose, excuse yourself to the bathroom. When you have finished eating, place your napkin neatly to the left of your plate, but do not push your place setting away from you. Do not push away or stack your dishes. You are not the waiter. Let the restaurant staff do their job. Never ask for a to-go box. You are there for business, not for leftovers. Doggy bags are okay for family dinners, but not during professional interactions. The host should always pay. This one can be a bit tricky, but if you are the host, you should bear the cost of the luncheon regardless of gender. You should pre-arrange and pre-decide how the account is going to be settled. Check the bill discreetly. An incorrect invoice can create internal audit issues, especially if the figure is substantial. What if a male guest wants to pay? A woman has some choices. She can clearly indicate that it is the firm that she represents which is hosting and paying for the luncheon, or she can excuse herself from the table and settle the invoice discreetly. This option works for men as well, and it is a very refined way to settle an invoice. However, the bottom line is that you don't want to fight over a business lunch, so if a male guest insists on paying despite a female host's best efforts, let him pay. Always say please and thank you to the restaurant staff. Do not complain or criticize the service or the food, especially if you are a guest, as this is an insult to your host. You do not want to damage business relationships. If you have any problems with the meal, quietly bring it to the waiter's attention. Tip appropriately. 15% for moderate service, 20% for excellent service. Some basic do's and don'ts of dining etiquette. Turn off your cell phones and beepers. Maintain a proper posture. Keep your elbows off the table. Do not apply makeup or comb your hair at the table. If you have to sneeze, remember to turn your head away from the table. Never lick or put your knife in your mouth. Don't reach over someone else's plate for something. Ask the waiter to serve. Never indulge in a serious conversation with food in your mouth. Never use your fingers to push food onto your spoon or your fork. Do not slurp your food or eat noisily, and never pick food out of your teeth with your fingernails. Never take food from your neighbor's plate.